Hi everyone, this is another homework help video. So on Tuesday, we did analyzing sources. It's due tomorrow if you were present for class. If you were absent, you get 1 day extra for every absent day. So I have a few options here. Let's start here. What is the importance of analyzing artifacts for understanding culture and history? Artifacts are immensely useful to scholars who want to learn about a culture. Many ancient cultures did not have a written language or did not actively record their history. So artifacts sometimes provide the only clues about how the people lived. Artifacts have provided essential clues about life in ancient Egypt, for example. What is artifact analysis? So that's what we're going to be doing. We're analyzing an artifact. Artifact analysis is the study of how people use and conceptualize objects. It is an examination of the object's qualities to better understand its users and the culture in which it typically exists. Directions. You have two options to complete this assignment. You can write on a printed worksheet or use the Google Doc attached to this assignment. So if you're viewing this video because you just need some extra help as homework, you were there for class, you should have a physical copy that I gave you in class. If you forgot it at school, you can print it out. This is a PDF version. You can click it and print. And it's pretty because it's colorful. I try to make them colorful, but we don't have a color printer at school. If you don't have a printer, you can click the Google Doc. It also has a copy of the slides there. But the direction says you have two options to complete it. You can do a physical copy or a digital one. Use the slides, which are attached here. These are the slides from the lesson, or homework help video to help you complete this assignment. So I'm recording the video now. That will show up here when I'm done. It will probably be two videos. It'll be a part 1, part 2, because this is kind of a longer lesson. Remember, you lose 1 point for each day the assignment is late. Message me, Miss Ray, or Mrs. Stafford if you need additional help. Students who are absent will get 1 extra day to complete work for every day they are absent. All right, so let's get started. And if you were there for the lesson and just want some extra help on how to fill out the worksheet, you can, fast forward through certain parts and you don't have to redo the whole lesson. Okay, analyzing sources. So you will be interpreting historical sources, formulating historical questions, identifying ways cultures record history. You will understand the historical sources include artwork, eyewitness accounts, letters, diaries, maps, and more. So what are some examples of historical sources? This part, we had you work with a partner to create a list of sources we might use to understand history. So this is a part on your worksheet. Switch to your worksheet. Let's do the Google Doc. Okay. Ah, what happened? Okay. What are some examples of historical sources? So something that might help you is if our previous lesson, we did primary and secondary sources. There was a video. You might want to watch that video again. But basically, if you were writing a paper and you wanted to learn about history, what would you use? So example I put was journals and diaries, articles, newspapers, photos, videos, artifacts. Someone said famous or historical people. Someone said maps or timelines. Someone said a teacher or textbooks. Okay, so those are some examples. You can write those all down, make it easy on you. And then let's Let's go back to the slides. So we did that in class. And I asked everyone for examples and I wrote it on the board. So historical sources include artwork, eyewitness accounts, letters, diaries, maps, etc. So I wrote all, I asked everyone to tell me some examples. We wrote it on the board. And the next step, work with your partner, look at the list of historical sources that you created. Label each source with a P if it is a primary source, or an S if it is a secondary source. So we'll go back to our worksheet. So once again, this is kind of review. You need to make sure you did the primary and secondary guided notes and watch that video, look at the slides, because this is how you'll know. But just to review, primary sources are sources that are from the event or time period. So journals and diaries are primary sources. Because if I was writing a journal about, we were saying how teachers are sources. So I was your guys' age when 9/11 happened. So if I wrote a journal entry or a diary entry about what happened on 9/11 for me on that day, you would look at that as a source. That's a primary source because I was there. Articles. So this could be a P or an S, and this is why. If the author was writing about an event in their article, they were there, it's a primary source. If the author was not there, it's a secondary source. It's the same for newspapers. Photos and videos, that's a primary source because the photographer or videographer, that person is there at the time taking the video or taking the photo. Artifacts, that's a primary source. That object was from that time period. So if I find a pyramid from ancient Egypt, that's a primary source. Old pottery, clothes. Famous or historical people. So yeah, interviews, video recordings, or them just word of mouth. Diaries, journal entries, they are primary sources if they're talking about something they were there for. Maps and timelines. So for maps, it could be a P or an S because, and I asked everyone in class this, if I'm showing you a current map, a present day map of ancient Mesopotamia, that is a secondary source. The person who made the map was not there during that time period. If it is an old map from the time period of ancient Mesopotamia, and it's a map of ancient Mesopotamia, that is a primary source because the person during that time period made the map of what it looked like during that time. Timelines are secondary sources. It's kind of like timelines are usually in textbooks. I almost want to let's just move that down there. Get rid of it. It's easier. Someone asked, what are you? What kind of source are you? I'm a secondary source. I mean, unless I was talking about I have been around for some historical events. I'm not that old, but some more recent ones. But yeah, usually I'm interpreting, information and relaying it to you. So I'm a secondary source. Same thing with textbooks. The people who write the textbooks, if you're reading a textbook that talks about ancient Mesopotamia, they weren't there for that. That was over 5,000 years ago. Timeline, same thing. It's a secondary source. Okay, so let's go back to the slides. So we reviewed that together as a class, and I showed everyone examples and the definitions. So primary sources, these are original documents or original research. We've got some examples here. Secondary sources, these are works that synthesize, summarize, or interpret primary sources. Ooh, that was a struggle. I should say that one more time. These are works that synthesize, summarize, or interpret primary sources. There we go, I can talk again. All right, those are some examples. So what is an artifact? So an artifact is a primary source An artifact is an object made by a human being, typically an item of cultural or historical interest.